All right, we are live.
Here we go with episode 5 of Fantasy Football question mark with Charles Barr and John Chapman. And this is a special episode.
Yes, sir.
This
Yes,
is
sir.
this is like one of those crossover episodes, where they like break away and like Family Matters goes and visits like step by step and something like that.
That's
That's
right. We are doing a on-air live fantasy mock draft, just to kind of play through these rankings and see how they line up and roster construction and all those fun words. And it's going to be a blast.
so John introduced me today to Fantasy Pros. All right. Now, some listeners will be like, this guy's a real amateur. But this thing's awesome. John, tell them a little bit about it.
And so Fantasy Pros is a free site where you can go through and you can pick whatever your league setup is, whether it's 3 wide receiver starting spots or 2 flex or super flex or whatever. And you can just go through and draft against the computer. And you can even change the ADP around the average draft position to fit whatever league you're going to draft with, whether that's ESPN, NFL, or MFL, whatever. And so that's all there. And so it's a quick way. Obviously, we love doing the ESPN live mock drafts, but this is a much faster way to play around with things that you usually would not do. And so if you're like, man, what if I do take a quarterback early? What does it look like? This is where you find that out.
And it's you versus a multitude of things that you can choose. One can be the preset ESPN draft rankings, Yahoo, or
Right.
the experts. Like, so you're going against, as opposed to when you go into an ESPN league, sometimes you go on the auto draft and then you've got a guy, you got like 4 guys left in the 5th round. Sometimes that feels kind of meaningless. Now that I've done this today, it feels a lot more meaningful, and I feel like I'm gaining knowledge about guys who will actually be taken.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So I did a randomized. So I pressed the random button on my draft position, and it was the 6th position. I was kind of happy for that too
Ooh,
because,
I love those spots.
yeah, I mean, the top 3, you kind of know what you're going to do. So as you press start to go ahead and mock draft, and it's against 12 other supposed people, it starts you out right at your pick. So here's who came off the board.
So real quick, let's just talk format. So this is a 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, and 1 flex league, and it is PPR, correct?
Yes, PPR.
Okay, very good. Points per reception. Basically, every catch you get a point. And so, who went off the board top 5?
Top 5, obviously number 1, David Johnson. The guy was the 4th overall fantasy scorer up there with Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, and company. Number 2, Le'Veon Bell. Number 3, Julio Jones. Number 4, Antonio Brown. And number 5, Odell Beckham. So already, because I'm drafting against the experts, a guy has slipped down to 6, and I'm very happy to take him here. Um, Here's who it kind of has, or here's who's left. We've got Ezekiel Elliott, and this is the overall. AJ Green, Mike Evans, LaShawn McCoy, Devontae Freeman, to name a few.
Okay.
So let's talk about Ezekiel Elliott.
So, Ezekiel Elliott's been falling, and by falling, I mean like 1 or 2 spots. He was top 3 guaranteed. Everybody's going the top 3 running backs for the longest time. But Adam Schefter put out a tweet and then a video talking about how he thinks a small suspension is coming, and then just recently he got in trouble again at a Dallas bar, got in a fight, and supposedly laid some guy out. No arrests were made or anything, but believe me whenever I say Zeke is getting suspended. It's going to take place. The domestic violence accusation, which has been pending with the NFL for over a year now, um, at St. Patty's Day Parade in Dallas, which is an absolute blast if you've never been. He pulled up a girl's shirt and showed her hoo-haws, things like that. So he's very immature, and it's seeming like he's going to be the face of the franchise being there in Dallas. He seems to take that spotlight well, and the NFL does not like the trajectory he's going on. So Goodell's going to throw a 1 or 2 game suspension out. Now, so having said that, if he is available at 6, you do cartwheels. It doesn't matter if he's suspended 1, 2 games. He
Right.
is still crazy value there. Look what happened with Le'Veon Bell last year. He was suspended the first 3 games and still finishes the number 2 guy.
Okay. Well, curveball though. Let's say Goodell is he's in a mood. His wife was, complaining at him, and he didn't do the dishes and all this stuff. And he's just mad. And he walks in Monday morning. He's like, you know what? Ezekiel Elliott, he gets a 4-game suspension. Doesn't seem likely. Where does he fall then with 4 games as opposed to 2?
So understand, you're going to be on a roller coaster ride with this, because whatever he is suspended, 1, 2, 3, or 4, it is going to be appealed by the Players Association, and they're going to probably win back a game. So let's say 4-game suspension. Here's what you should do. If you're in Dynasty, trade for Zeke. Okay? Don't overreact to the first news that comes out. And even if he is suspended 4 games, if you can get him at 6, you should still probably take him at 6. We have a great Le'Veon Bell last year was suspended 3 games. What happened to Le'Veon? Well, he fell out of the first round, and people that took him were so happy they got him. Again, he finished, I think I said 2 earlier, he finished number 3 overall in PPR format, and you just take him. 1,200 yards rushing, 7 touchdowns. He had 75 receptions. I mean, yeah, you just take him. This guy, Ezekiel Elliott's going to put up numbers, and I would say I would probably, if I'm looking at my rankings, which I am right now, I would drop him down to 9 is where I would take him. I would probably take LaShawn McCoy ahead of him, A.J. Green, Julio Jones, Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown, and the other 2 running backs. So I'd put him at 9 if he had a 4-game suspension.
So with the 2-game suspension, with what I believe, and with the first round, the 2016-17 year, I'm going to take Ezekiel Elliott.
Zeke.
I just pressed draft.
And just smile.
Fan, it hurts, but you know,
the Philadelphia Eagle blood runs thick.
It does, man. It hurts a little bit. And here we go. Let me just tell you a few guys who came off the board. Alrighty, Roo. So to finish out, Mike Evans went at 7, Jordy Nelson at 8, A.J. Green at 9, Melvin Gordon at 10.
Typical.
Melvin Gordon above LaShawn. 11, McCoy. Devontae Freeman, 12. And then into the second round, Jordan Howard at the first round of the second round, or the first pick of the second round, sorry. DeMarco Murray, Jay Ajayi, T.Y. Hilton, Michael Thomas, Amari Cooper. So now left on the board for me.
Okay, let's hear running backs first.
Running backs first is Todd Gurley, Lamar Miller, Isaiah Crowell, Leonard Fournette, Carlos Hyde. So those are the 5 guys. And Marshawn Lynch, I'll mention him as well.
Okay, what about receivers?
At wide receiver is Dez Bryant, not a believer, DeAndre Hopkins, Doug Baldwin, Demaryius Thomas, and Allen Robinson. And Gronk is still on the board, but we already did an episode on that, and I won't touch him in the second round.
Okay, so this is interesting for me because usually here I would pair my awesome stud running back with whichever stud receiver falls. And my stud receiver, I would probably take Dez here. He's not as high on my rankings, but I was leaning Dez, but the reason why I won't is I don't want Zeke and Dez on the same roster.
Right.
It's not a bad way to go, but it automatically limits your upside. The Cowboys can only score so many points in a given week, and it caps that number. So I would take Dez out of this. Who are you leaning?
I know they put 8 in the box. I know that the Rams didn't do much to improve themselves at the wide receiver position, even though you like Robert Woods, I know. Lamar Miller is actually tempting here. Todd Gurley is tempting for me.
Okay.
DeAndre Hopkins is not, far off for me.
So DeAndre Hopkins is my highest rated player of everybody you've mentioned. So if I'm going purely off rankings, I am taking DeAndre Hopkins. And I like that. And here's what I usually like to do. If I get a stud wide receiver or a stud running back, and what I mean by that is my top 3 running backs or my top 7 receivers. If I get that, I want to go opposite.
Yeah.
Now, let's say I don't get one of those top 7, then I'm going running back every time with like LaShawn McCoy and DeMarco Murray, Melvin Gordon and Devontae Freeman, something like that. But I'm leaning DeAndre Hopkins here if I was making the pick.
Yeah. And so people who are listening know, I will disagree with John and I will pick someone different. But for the second round in the 2016-17, I'm going to agree with John, and we're going to go DeAndre Hopkins. I'm pressing draft.
Ooh, what's up? We're
We
balanced
got
from the start, guys.
Yes, we got Zeke and Hopkins. And let me know, do you want to know who's kind of come off the board, or do you want me to
No, let's jump forward to who's available because that might take too long. I want to spend most of our time going forward through the thought process of who's left and why I should pick this person over that person and where we are at.
Okay, so we've got a running back position taken care of, a wide receiver position. If it's me, I'm really wanting to secure the second RB2. Let me tell you who's on the board.
All right, third round.
Lamar Miller, Isaiah Crowell, Carlos Hyde, Mark Ingram, Christian McCaffrey. Ugh,
McCaffrey.
really?
Christian
Well,
McCaffrey.
Lamar Miller.
No, you just said his name wrong, so I was trying to be a jerk.
Oh, my bad. And then at the wide receiver, we have Demaryius Thomas, Allen Robinson, Alshon Jeffries, Brandon Cooks.
Alshon Jeffrey, what's up?
I know. Jarvis Landry. This is tough, man. I'll be honest.
Okay, what about, real quick, top two quarterbacks? Has any quarterbacks gone off?
Aaron Rodgers went off the board. He went off the board in
We still got Brady?
second round. Tom Brady's still there.
What about tight end?
Gronk is gone. Travis Kelce is there.
Okay, so this is where the hot spot gets. And so when people say, oh, man, but look, Tom Brady is still there in the third round. And here's where I would say you don't need to take him. And the reason why you don't need to take him is there are still 15 draftable quarterbacks behind him.
Yep.
Whereas our running back 2 spot, which you said, and I agree with you completely, is a huge area of need right here. And so that's where I would want to put my focus.
I'm liking Lamar Miller here.
Man, you were talking about him possibly at round 2, and the fact that he fell this far. I have him as my running back 11. This would give us 2 number 1 running backs. So when I say number 1 running back, that's top 12 of their position. So Lamar Miller, I mean, I think that is I'm not the biggest Lamar Miller fan, football player fan. I don't think he's that good. He finished as number 16 running back last year.
Yeah.
But he's safe. And not to mention, Devonta Freeman just got arrested recently for having pot and a concealed handgun. So he's going to be doing a suspension. Not that he was going to be taking carries away, but that makes his position even more safe.
Now, to go against our logic from earlier, we didn't want to do Zeke and Dez, but I'm still okay doing DeAndre Hopkins and Lamar Miller because DeAndre Hopkins isn't competing like Dez is against Beasley, Witten, and Williams. I think that Lamar Miller is going to be that go-to bell cow, and DeAndre Hopkins is the focus of that offense. So I'm still good. And so with the third pick, and actually his average draft position, ADP, is 27, and I'm at pick 30, so I'm getting him pretty good.
A little bit of value. Yeah.
Taking Lamar Miller. Bam.
Boom. Love it.
Zeke, Lamar Miller, DeAndre Hopkins. This is the cross, where you cross the road. Are you going to get that flex position that's going to be, bring the power with that running back possibly, or are you going to shore up your wide receiver if there's a guy who fell to you? All right, so let me tell you who is left, starting with running backs. We have Carlos Hyde, Mark Ingram, C.J. Anderson, Ty Montgomery. Tom Brady still on the board. Let's see. And receivers. Ooh, the run on receivers has been made.
Yep. This is that third round, just to let you know.
Yeah.
That's where it gets crazy because the running back drop off is for real. Luckily, we got 2 decent, one super stud and one decent guy. And after that, it looks so ugly at running back. Everybody chases after those receivers. So who are our top guys available at receiver?
Golden Tate, Michael Crabtree, who I like, Julian Edelman, Terrell Pryor, Emmanuel Sanders, Brandon Marshall, Moncrief, Stephon Diggs, Tyreek Hill. I actually don't mind a lot of these guys at wide receiver too. My
Okay.
feeling is, and kind of maybe look up where we are in the tiers, I feel like I can take a running back, and a lot of these guys are still going to be here for me. Jamison Crowder, Kelvin Benjamin, Martavius Bryant. I mean, there's a lot of depth there for wide receiver too.
There is some depth there for wide receiver too. If I was making this pick, I would definitely lean Terrell Pryor. I just think the upside is there, and the role that he is stepping in is just loaded with targets. What are you thinking? I think you're thinking Tom Brady.
No, I'm actually thinking Carlos Hyde at my flex.
Ooh, all right. I mean, Hyde he's my highest rated player on the board. And so I have no problem going running back heavy, especially when we know there's going to be one of those same receivers there in the next round. So anytime you're drafting and a huge run goes on any position, so let's say there's a huge run on receivers like what we just went through. What usually happens the next round and a half is that tilts away. So you go through a huge running back run, and then after a running back run, it's going to go quarterback tight end mix, or after a huge wide receiver run, it's going to go towards running back. So just understand, okay, you don't have to spaz and you don't have to chase. Never ever chase the draft. Don't do that. Chase value. Chase value and chase upside. So at the first couple rounds of the draft, we want to minimize risk. And then later on in the draft, you are swinging for home runs. And
Yep.
that's where we are now. So we are swinging for home runs.
So I'm going to, with the 43rd pick in the draft, fourth round, I'm taking Carlos Hyde.
I love that pick. I'm getting Carlos Hyde in too many of my drafts, which I know I'm a 49ers fan, but he was on pace for 1,400 yards last year if he played out the whole season. And that was with Chip Kelly, which I'd actually put forward good rushing numbers. I understand the concern with Joe Williams, but if you look at every single where Kyle Shanahan has been, they do a share. Even last year, it was like a 55 to 40% run share between Freeman and Coleman. So even if Carlos Hyde loses the job, it's not like he's going to be on the bench. The kid's going to play.
Let me just tell you that Adrian Peterson just went off the board in the 5th round. What do you think about that?
That's insane to me. I will not have him in one of my drafts, and it's not so much because I don't believe that he can do it. It's just that look who's all there. Mark Ingram, who dominated last year, is right there. And then on top of that, he hasn't played in almost a full calendar year. And then they traded up in the 3rd round for Alvin Kamara. So there's a lot there. Not to mention Travaris Cadet's still there catching running back or catching passes. So there's going to be some weeks where AP does AP things, and that's okay. But taking him right now, that's absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah. So there is a big temptation for me on the board, and I think you're going to disagree with it. Let me go through who's left on the board. We're in the 5th round here, pick 54. And we're going to go through running backs real quick. Not that I'm interested in a running back right now, but just to kind of let you know who's there. Mark Ingram, C.J. Anderson, Ty Montgomery, Danny Woodhead, Bilal Powell, Eddie Lacy, Amir Abdullah. Okay. Even got guys under that: Frank Gore, Theo Riddick, Mike Gillislee. We have a wide receiver position that needs to be filled.
Big time.
We have a QB position that needs to be filled. We need a tight end. So we got 3 major areas that we need to go after here. Let's see. At the wide receiver position, there is still some talent. Julian Edelman at 24. Emmanuel Sanders, Brandon Marshall, Dante Moncrief, Tyreek Hill, Willie Snead, Jamison Crowder. We got some guys there.
Okay.
So here's the temptation. Ready?
What about quarterback?
Yeah, Drew Brees sitting here staring me in the face saying, you know I'm better than Andrew Luck. Take me now. What do I do?
Man, this is a rough one because I know what I would do in this situation, and I know you're just sitting there sweating bullets.
Yeah.
You're just like, hell no. How do you
Yeah.
pass on Drew Brees? And I got some friends that take Drew Brees in the second round of their draft every single year, and they say, "Well, I won. Well, I won." And sometimes they will, but
Yeah.
do me a favor, okay? So
Yeah.
look at Drew Brees, and he's exceptional. Can you
Yeah.
tell me the next 6 quarterbacks after him that are available right now?
Yeah, I can. Let me
Go
go
ahead.
through. So Andrew Luck, Russell Wilson, and I'm not a fan of Russell Wilson, so that almost makes it worse for me. Matt Ryan, big fan. Mariota, we'll see. Winston, Kirk Cousins, who I'm a fan of more than Jameis Winston or Marcus Mariota. Cam Newton, Derek Carr, love
Jeez.
Derek Carr.
You
Ben
just
Roethlisberger.
listed 8
Yeah.
quarterback ones. And so this is my point. I love Drew Brees. I want Drew Brees on my team. However, there are not those 8 quarterbacks are going to be there for 4 more rounds. Now, I get that Drew Brees is at the end of an elite tier, and if you want to take him here, this is when you do it, right? Because we're doing a mock draft. Let's see how it works, and we can make a little side note, and we can see how that works out.
And for people listening, I just looked up the stats here. Here's the fantasy football points at the end of the year. This is standard, though, not PPR. I probably can change it. I'm going to change it real quick.
That's all right.
See how that. Okay. So here's the difference. You got Aaron Rodgers at 380, Matt Ryan at 347, Drew Brees at 332, and then the drop off is to 307. So you're only looking at about 30 fantasy points over the course of the year.
It's 2 points a game.
To Kirk Cousins, and then there is a big drop off though after 5. Dak Prescott's at 286. So the difference between a Dak Prescott and a Drew Brees is significant. So
what do you want to do? I'm going to let you make this pick, and I'm going to make you live with the consequences. But
True chains. I'm going to go with my gut here, and I'm going to take Drew Brees.
Oh, this is gut over logic, but God bless you. Now, if
I changed my mind.
Pick, I would have taken Julian Edelman.
No, I'm going to change my mind. I don't know if you heard me. I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go Julian Edelman as well.
God bless you. And
yeah,
I think you'll be happy.
I saw Drew. I almost did it. So here we go with the 5th pick, or the 5th round, pick 54, taking Julian Edelman.
You'll be happy you did, man.
The Great White Hope. Here we go.
We're going to go probably about 4 more rounds, and then we'll stop it. We're not going to do the full thing. But hopefully the whole goal in this is that you guys can see the decisions that go through your head and the conversations you need to have with yourself when you're picking. Because you're not just looking at your roster, you're looking at what your roster will be 3 rounds from now. And so we're making a trade here saying we'll take Julian Edelman now for Dak Prescott later, for Derek Carr later. And so we would rather have Edelman and Derek Carr than Drew Brees and, let's see here, let's go down, Rashard Matthews, or Drew Brees and Tyrell Williams. That's the whole idea behind this concept.
Yep. So we're in a tricky position here because I need a QB and I need a tight end. All right, we're not.
I don't think you need either one. See, this is where I would disagree. I don't think you need those things yet.
You don't think that I need to go ahead and secure a good tight end?
No.
Okay.
I think our wide receiver position is very weak, and I think we need to bolster that with another flex that
DeAndre Hopkins and Julian Edelman's weak.
I do. I think that is a weak position for us.
All right. Okay. Let's see what we got here. We got Emmanuel Sanders. Dang, that's not a bad pick.
It's not.
At this juncture.
Back-to-back 1,000-yard years.
Brandon Marshall. We'll see how he gets along in that offense. He could be ignored too. Dante Moncrief.
He's a swing for the fences kind of guy, but I'm going to say no. I like Sanders more.
Man, I see a guy coming up, and I know you're going to get all on him. But Kelvin Benjamin, Deshaun Jackson, and here you go, Pierre Garçon.
Oh, are you kidding me? This is a perfect scenario that you could ever wish for. You have the target monster himself, Pierre Garçon, sitting there that has safety written all over his freaking face.
Okay, so
So if you look at our
tell listeners
receivers, we
why.
have DeAndre Hopkins, who was who a monster year, then terrible year. You have Julian Edelman, that is Tom Brady's best friend / bunkmate, but they added a lot of pieces. So who knows with that? We could bolster. And so a while ago, I said we have a very weak wide receiver core, and I believe that. If we pick Pierre Garcon here, we can sleep safe at night, baby. Everything's going to be okay because if one of those two guys don't go well, we can plug Pierre Garcon in and know that we have a strong wide receiver 2 / flex play throughout the whole year.
Now, he only had 114 targets last year.
You said only 114? I just want to make sure I heard that
and
right.
that's the 28th. He ranked the number 28.
Yeah, and that's where he's going to be. He's a number 28 type of receiver that's his floor. He's the number 1 target in San Francisco with Brian Hoyer. And before you make jokes, understand Hoyer had 4 straight 300-yard games with the Bears last year before he got hurt. His only 4 games he started last year, he had 300 yards passing in each one. He can sling the ball. He's just not a winning quarterback. So, man, I'm telling you right now, he's going to be playing the freaking Julio Jones role, and he's going to get those targets. The last time Pierre Garcon played in Kyle Shanahan offense, he led the entire NFL in receptions. I'm telling you right now, I could not stand on my post and bang the table anymore.
So you're telling me Pierre Garcon over Emmanuel Sanders?
Yes, unfortunately I am. I like Emmanuel Sanders. I really, really do. I just think I absolutely hate the quarterback play that's there with Trevor Siemian. I get it. He had 1,000 yards last year, and that is awesome. But I do think he is due for regression. I think it's time for him to go down.
If we're supposed to be swinging for the fences, I know that the argument with Kelvin Benjamin is that he's been inconsistent, but is there a guy with a higher ceiling on the board right now? Maybe Devontae Parker.
If you would have said a guy with a higher scale, I would agree with you because the dude is gigantic. He's a hamburger away from being a 3-down lineman. But no, Kelvin Benjamin finished as the number 37 receiver last year. See, as a Freudian slip, tight end. That's what he should be. No, Kelvin Benjamin I want nothing to do with. Emmanuel Sanders is great. I believe in Pierre, man. I believe in him.
I'm gonna disappoint you.
That's okay. It's a story of our relationship.
It's so true. In the 6th round with the 67 pick, because this is my team in my draft, I'm taking Emmanuel Sanders.
That's okay though. That's okay. That's okay.
Gotta respect yourself sometimes. You tell somebody no.
No means no, baby.
No means no. And here we go.
Brought to you by Pudding Pops.
All right, so let me just tell you who's in the QB pool right now, and I feel like it's time to pull the trigger. We got Jameis Winston, Kirk Cousins, who I'm very high on,
Same.
Cam Newton, Derek Carr, Ben Roethlisberger, Phillip Rivers.
That's the thing. You just listed 6 guys that you want.
No, I don't want Jameis Winston. I don't really want Cam if I don't have to have him. I do like Derek Carr. I'm not sure about Ben and his injuries, but I do want Kirk Cousins. So let me just say that out loud. Then at the running back position with Danny Woodhead, Eddie Lacy, Amir Abdullah, Frank Gore, Theo Riddick. None of the guys I'm going to bang on the table for, and I'm not going to go and get another wide receiver.
Hold on. Is Pierre Garcon still available?
Pierre Garcon's probably available.
Now, in all seriousness, so you just heard me go crazy for Pierre Garcon. We just drafted Emmanuel Sanders, who is that kind of same guy, the safe with limited upside Emmanuel Sanders. So I would not advise here to go for a Pierre Garcon, even though you heard everything I just said. But we drafted a guy that fulfills that role on our roster. So I would not say go get another guy. And Emmanuel Sanders, Pierre Garcon, Kenny Britt, all those kind of safe guys, those are Theo Riddick, Duke Johnson, Danny Woodheads. And so I want at least one of that category, the main target, monster receivers or running backs for both positions. And so keep that in mind as we go through this. I'm hoping we can get one of those running backs as well.
With the 78th pick in the 7th round, my team takes Kirk Cousins at quarterback.
You got Kirk. Good old Kirk. He'll be the 49ers quarterback next year. So excited about that.
He was, I think he was number 4, I think, in points or 5. So,
he has some bad games, but still, I mean, you got to look at the output that guy has just put up, and it seems like it's nonstop. He had 15 games over 10 points, 8 games over 20, and three games over 30 points.
All right, so our tight end position is starting to wane. It is starting to get a little bit thin here. We've got Eric Ebron. You're one of your fantasy football draft.
I like Ebron.
Jack Doyle, Colby Fleener. Oh, thank you. Jason Witten, Julius Thomas. I think it's time to go tight end here. I think I got to secure a guy that I feel comfortable with instead of getting Jack Doyle.
So I love Ebron here. I like Ebron and Doyle personally, but I would lean Ebron big time. I have him as tight end 1, and his upside, he's only 24 years old, top 10 pick out of North Carolina, and you got Matt Stafford who just throws the ball like no other. I love Eric Ebron here.
I will end up drafting a swing for the fences backup tight end if I'm taking Ebron this late. I'm going to go ahead and get a guy who may step up, O.J. Howard or whoever's there, or old boy from the Browns. I mean, I don't even know if he's necessarily being drafted.
Now, I will say this: whenever I wait on tight end, I want to get 2.
Yes,
I would love pairing Ebron with Doyle or Witten, who is super safe. But at quarterback, I will never carry 2 quarterbacks and 2 tight ends. It's just not worth it. It's not worth it. And if I have to err on a side of caution, I would carry 2 quarterbacks over 2 tight ends.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
So let's make one more selection here. In the 8th round, I took Eric Ebron, and now I have everybody filled out in my starting role positions. 1 wide receiver on the bench. Let me go and just quickly maybe take some depth or look for a swing for the fences kind of guy. By the way, on the bench for quarterback is Ben Roethlisberger, Matthew Stafford.
Jeez.
Yeah. Wow.
That's the thing. We you can wait, and once you think that you don't need to wait, you can still wait.
Right.
Still wait.
Because
our wide receiver spot looks. I hate our wide receiver tandem right now. I'm not happy with it. Is there a Martavis Bryant, or let's see here? Is there somebody that is still there that's just a huge swing for the fences kind of guy? Mike Wallace, Deshaun Jackson. I'm going through some lists here. I want some big, high upside guys. Tyreek Hill's gone.
Martavis Bryant went off the board rounds ago, by the way.
What about Josh Doxson? Cameron Meredith?
Dude, I'm sorry. I'm staring at a guy I really like here, and he's not a wide receiver. And he's a swing for the fences kind of guy. Kareem Hunt is on the board.
Yeah, I mean, that's your Andy Reid pick. He's not going to be the guy in Kansas City at first. But if you look at our running backs, we don't need a guy to be the guy early. We got Zeke, we got Lamar, we got Hyde.
I'm going to tell you who I'm going to go for here. I'm going to tell you the top 5 receivers left on the board, and you'll be able to tell. Deshaun Jackson, no thank you. Eric Dicker, maybe 2 years ago. Randall Cobb, you're being bypassed. I'm sorry. Devontae Parker.
Okay.
He's starting to come on, and he looked like the receiver the last 6 weeks or so. And Jarvis Landry started to really fade. Devontae Parker started to become, that big man, almost Calvin Johnson-like. No, we're not going to give him that much credit.
He looks the part, and I loved him coming out of Rutgers. And they've been talking about, Miami talks up every single position on the team. But you are correct. It is a swing for the fences. He's not a person I get on any of my teams, but we do need a receiver. And he does fit the home run swing type of a guy. So we'll see.
Okay, I'll just go through a few others. Corey Coleman, Kenny Britt, Adam how do you say his name? Thielen?
Yeah.
Hey, that guy only just produced last year.
Mike
Wallace, Quincy Enunwa, no thank you. Marvin Jones out of Detroit. That's not terrible, actually.
Yeah, the problem with Jones is he had 4 weeks last year that were just exceptional. I think it was like the wide receiver one after week 3 or something last year, but then just fell off a cliff. And Tate took over there. So, but no, the Devontae Parker, it's not a bad pick. There's some guys I'd like more there, but that's okay.
You know what? I'm going to tell you real quick, and then we'll end this part of the segment. Is that there's a guy number 53 ranked, and if he doesn't do something this year, we can't talk about a bigger draft bust than Kevin White. I watched film on this guy, and I would have bet my house. You know what I'm saying? Like, you watch this guy play, and he is just ripping the ball out of the sky, blowing past people, blocking downfield, going crazy. Is it the injury, or is this guy just not, what we thought he was?
Well, I mean, if you look at what he did last year, though, in this short time, he was beating out Alshon Jeffrey for targets and receptions whenever he got hurt. Now, what's that look like? In a full year, he's got all new quarterbacks there. Who knows what that's going to look like? You want it to be there, but I don't think it's going to happen, man. Yeah. I really, really don't.
All right, so with the last pick, I'm going to go ahead and take Devontae Parker just because this guy is a guy, everyone's kind of talking up the Dolphins offense a little bit. I'm kind of buying it a little bit. But, yeah, so that I'm going to just go ahead and read out my team for everyone to hear. So I was at the 6th position, and this is what we came out with. Kirk Cousins at the quarterback, Zeke, Lamar Miller, DeAndre Hopkins, Julian Edelman, Eric Ebron, which I'm not really happy with that tight end, but it is what it is. And Carlos Hyde, the flex, very happy for that. And then 2 wide receivers on my bench so far. I probably would have, if not for the influence of John, probably would have went running back over Devontae Parker, maybe Kareem Hunt, just another guy to swing for the fences in case one of my running backs goes down. But I like it. I think this is a team that, to take from Matthew Berry's quote, you can't lose your league in your draft, but you can mess it up or something like that. Like I messed up that.
Yeah, that was about as close as you can get to wrong. But yeah, I still believe that. Now, a couple things looking over your team. If you get Zeke, try your hardest to get McFadden. You got to get McFadden. Darren McFadden, he is going to be the backup there. There actually are rumors going around they tried to trade Alfred Morris, and there were no takers. Get McFadden, and you can get him super, super late because he's probably going to start a game or two for you there. Couple other things as I look over our team. If you want to be bad at a position, you want it to be tight end. It's the most accessible on the waiver wire. And just understand, if you're not happy with your team after the draft is over, that's okay. Make some trades. Pay attention to the waiver wire. Pay attention to the news. That's where leagues are won. Okay, they aren't won on draft day.
And I'll say, to John's credit, he's one of the best dudes on the waiver wire ever. It drives me insane that he always ends up getting the guy that I want. It really ticks me off, and somehow he knows. So it does work. It pays off.
It does. And I'll say this, probably my claim to fame, which is sad. About 6 years ago, I drafted Ray Rice and Adrian Peterson with my first and second pick, and that was the year AP got suspended for the year and Ray Rice as well. And so my team was terrible, but I was able to pick up Odell Beckham off of the waiver wires 4 weeks before he came back. That's when he had the hamstring thing. So I picked him up and just held on to him just because I watched a lot of film and I thought he'd be good. Obviously, didn't know he'd be that good. And I would have lost that league that year. I mean, that was just the worst drafted team ever. And you fight and you fight and you fight and you realize and you learn different things. And, you can make up for that. So it's still there. Potential is still there. You just got to work.
I'll say that John was he was the commissioner of a league I was in for a while, and there's just something special when you have a good fantasy football league. It's something you're excited about. And I'll say that.
Okay, hold on just a sec. So we're at almost 25 minutes right now.
Okay.
Do we want to do this, or do we want to make this a completely extra episode? So
we can do an extra episode, and we can dive into the AFC East.
Let's do the AFC East, and then back on off, and then we'll save this for another one.
Okay, because, yeah, this could go.
Right.
There's a lot to it. All right, so we're going to dive into our weekly division analysis, and I think we're going to start with the AFC East this week, correct?
Yes, and so this one's probably the most predictable division that we have. So the New England Patriots have won this division 8 years straight, and 13 out of the past 14 years they have won the division.
Wow.
It's just not fair. Like, it's just not fair.
Yeah, and nobody hates Tom Brady more than I do, because, as you guys know, the Patriots probably listened in on our practice when the Eagles had the Super Bowl. I mean, most likely.
There's no doubt. There is zero doubt that they cheated so much. But, man, if they're still cheating, I don't know, man. They're still killing it.
No, and I'll say that to come back to say, even with the suspected cheating that I'm like almost certain that they did, and probably other teams do it too, but I don't know to the extent of like how many times they've been caught and all those things. I just really hate the Patriots because it's like we give them a pass. One of my favorite stories, real quick, is I thought it was a joke the first time that I heard it. Was that Putin stole Robert Kraft's Super Bowl ring? That is real, dude. That was real.
That happened.
It was on NFL.com, so I'm like, okay, this has got to be true. And then you go back and look, and
it happened.
And George W. had to like talk Robert Kraft off a ledge, like, hey man, you gotta like be diplomatic about this. But anyways, more reason to just despise the Patriots, and anyways, I can't.
That's so
I can't
great.
take them. So who do you got coming?
I got the Patriots. I got the Patriots winning again. So let's go top down this time because we all know.
Yeah.
I got New England winning it again, hands down. It's not even close. So who do you have at number 2?
I think it's not even close. I think it's the Buffalo Bills, and I think that there's a big gap between the Dolphins and the Jets too. I like the Bills. I like what the Bills have been doing on defense. I'm a bigger fan of Tyrod Taylor than a lot of other people.
Same. I think he's awesome, and hopefully, McDermott, the new head coach there, gives him a chance. Which McDermott, he was a defensive coordinator for you guys about 5 years
love
ago.
McDermott. Let me tell you why I love McDermott. Because he is the protege of Jim Johnson, the late Jim Johnson, who
so great.
One of my favorite coaches ever. Just had the perfect plays lined up and was the blitz master. Obviously Pittsburgh, they're also, blitz kings as well, but Philly had their own way of doing it, and Scott McDermott was there forever, and then he went over to the Panthers, had all the success, and then bam. I love that he's in the position that he is. I'm totally rooting on him, and he's got McCoy, Sammy Watkins, Zay Jones, and a defense that can contend.
And if they stay healthy, like I'll say this, the Ryan brothers are 2 of the worst coaches in the NFL, and they're not in the NFL anymore, either one of them. That's good. But the injuries that they had with whether it's Sammy Watkins, their first and second round draft pick last year, they've had so many injuries. If that roster stays healthy, they could be beasts. They really could.
Just on a quick side note, it's like the NFL has had to, get rid of these like family-friendly names that everybody knows, but that don't have the talent, like the Jeff Fishers, the Ryans, and then you have people who've actually been on the grind, working, people who've had success in college. But there's still some of those old-timey names that people love to get behind. And
it's weird. I like those names there. I just don't want him as head coach. Like, I know Fisher's son's still coaching, and I'm glad. I think he was one of the better coaches on that staff. His dad, oh, my God, no. The Ryan brothers, no. No. They're not good coaches.
My only issue was with Fisher's son in the All-In documentary is that he just seemed a little bit immature. Like, he seemed a little bit too like in with his players, and he's like talking about, he's like looking too far ahead. He's like, okay, if we win these 2 games instead of like being moment by moment. So wasn't a huge fan of his. And
he had a bad teacher, I can tell you that.
Yeah, seriously. It's a weird, like, to see Hard Knocks and to see All In and how other teams are coached. Jeff Fisher just seemed too laxed. He seemed, I don't know, he's giving the big rah-rah speech. He's like, okay, you guys ready to go practice now? Ready to go give it your all? Okay, let's do this. And just like completely uninspired.
Yeah, I did see some posts on Twitter which were great on July 9th. Happy Jeff Fisher Day, 7-9. It just made me so happy.
Oh, that is hilarious.
Anyway,
So
I've got Miami number 3 as well, just like you.
Yep.
But you got to look at what they did last year. I mean, they're a playoff team. They won 9 out of 10 games after week 6 last year. I just think Ryan Tannehill is just awful.
Agreed.
I think he is not an NFL quarterback. And I get they don't have anything else, but I love their O-line. I love their running game. I love their receivers. I love their defense. I love so much about this team. It's just that quarterback position stops you from winning.
So that's 2 quarterbacks that A&M has cranked out that have not really been. I mean, Manziel was a whole nother level. But Tannehill, there were times that I was a believer in him. I'm like, ooh, man, this kid can rip it. He can kind of make some plays here and there, but he is the definition of inconsistent.
Yep.
Don't care for him. And then in dead last.
It's not close either.
Yeah, no. It's not
I
close.
have 2 teams competing for the number 1 pick overall next year in the draft. And one is the New York Jets, who are just terrible. If you go back and read, they invited the press out for one of their mini camp practices.
Yeah.
And Christian Hackenberg, their 2nd round pick last year, hit several reporters with the ball on the sideline during warm-ups. Like he's so bad. But anyway, the New York Jets and the Chicago Bears, I think one of those 2 teams will be the worst team in the NFL.
And not to jump into the NFC North, but I don't know. Sometimes you count the Bears out and then they surprise you. The Bears will end up screwing themselves. It'll be the Jets, okay? Because the Bears always find a way to kind of like, they'll crank out 3, 4, 5 wins, and the Jets will be less. I do like what that defense is shaping up to be.
They drafted 2 strong safeties with their 1st and 2nd round pick. And now I liked both of the strong safeties they drafted, but I don't understand, especially when you already had Calvin Pryor, who they released, and he didn't live up to expectation. But strong safety is not a valued position in the NFL, and the fact that they drafted 2 of them, I don't get it. I think they're going to try to play Marcus Mays at nickel, but we'll see.
Yeah, the whole safety position, free safety and strong safety, there's sort of like a renaissance going on, and there's some changes that are kind of happening, kind of like how LeBron impacted like positionless players and those kinds of things. You're kind of seeing that at the safety now when you don't see a lot of teams running the 4-3. You see a lot of guys run the nickel and with the safety down the box, taking on the tight end or the running back in coverage. So it's interesting. You see a lot more safeties focused on in the draft, and the Jets got caught up in that and had 2 decently starting safeties and then just drafted 2 more safeties. Like, what are you doing?
They'll have an entirely new coaching staff, which is sad because I absolutely love the coach that they got there. Got his name's right off my head. He was the DC for Bruce Arians for a long time. Todd Bowles.
Yeah.
I love that guy. He's exceptional. Just the Jets can't win, man. They can't get out of their own way.
But another guy that should be a position coach and not a head coach.
DC. He needs to be a defensive coordinator.
Yep. Well, that wraps up episode 5. We got the Patriots taking it, that division.
Sucks to say, but it's going to happen.
Most likely. Well, that's a lock. Unless Tom Brady goes down, and even still.
They have a winning record in games that Tommy Brady has not played in.
It's
like it doesn't matter. It's Belichick, not Brady. Brady's amazing, greatest ever, but this is a Belichick reason why they win. But anyway, go give us a subscription on iTunes. We are Fantasy Football. Enter Ron Burgundy there. So Fantasy Football with a question mark. Any questions that you have and you are not Charles Barr's family member, reach out to us on Twitter. We are JL_Chapman, JL_CHAPMAN, and really appreciate the time. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And Charles, you want to send us off, bud?
Peace out.
Peace. All right, brother.